Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It has been a couple of weeks since I uploaded, but I hope you all are doing well, and hopefully you have seen the posts in my community tab where I do post missing person flyers or info. Some of the cases don't have enough information for a video yet, but their faces still need to be seen, and some are already being covered by multiple channels, but hopefully y'all are seeing my post pop up, so the information is still getting out there. I am working on a very hard case out of Indianapolis right now, which hopefully I'll have done and ready to shoot a video for soon, but I still have a lot of work to do on it. I've been working on it for months, honestly, and it is a doozy. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it, and also so you see all of my community posts. Okay, so I feel like I am repeating myself with some of these videos, because today's story is yet another case where parents and Child Protective Services failed an innocent, defenseless little child, and this baby is missing and has been missing since 2011. A significant amount of time passed before he was even reported missing, and his mother, the main person responsible for ensuring his safety and well-being, is not disclosing where her son is or what happened to him. How many times have we heard this? CPS didn't see this child for quite some time, and they did somewhat try to make contact, but they didn't report him missing. So, in my opinion, they failed him also. Someone please explain to me how this keeps happening. Also, this little baby's case has not received much attention at all. It seems like everyone has forgotten about it. I didn't even know about him until someone requested the case, but we are going to talk about it today and hopefully get this little guy some exposure. Dwight Stallings was born in Sacramento, California on May the 19th of 2010 to parents Tanisha Edwards and Hassan Stallings. Tanisha had previously given birth to 2 other children before she had Dwight, but Child Protective Services had removed those 2 children from Tanisha's care and placed them with Tanisha's mother, Barbara. Tanisha was no stranger to getting into trouble with the law. She was in and out of jail on various charges starting in 2002. She liked being out in the streets, she liked to hang out with the wrong type of crowd, and she was a frequent drug user. Hassan Stallings, Dwight's father, also had an extensive arrest history, including charges involving drugs, firearms, and domestic violence. I don't know much about Tanisha and Hassan's relationship, only that they lived together off and on in Tanisha's apartment on Florin Road there in Sacramento. Tanisha did use meth while she was pregnant with little Dwight. Now, I was under the impression that prenatal drug exposure was considered grounds for removing a child from the parents at the hospital. Like, you don't get to take your baby home if they test positive for drugs. You have to prove you can get clean and take care of your child before you get them back. But that isn't the case everywhere. As of 2011, only 27 out of 50 states will take your baby from you, and California, where this case takes place, isn't one of them. Sacramento County's Child Protective Services was aware of Tanisha's drug use, and because of this, they were supposed to monitor her and baby Dwight, and they required Tanisha to take random drug tests, which she more times than not failed. Yet, CPS allowed Dwight to stay in his mother's custody. The agency didn't really do much checking up on the baby either, from what I understand. They just sporadically tested his mom for drugs, and that was it. I don't believe they ever came in and checked Tanisha's home. When CPS does home visits, they are supposed to check for safety hazards. They make sure there is food in the home, that the children have clothing, necessities, their basic needs. They make sure there aren't any drugs, weapons, chemicals, harmful things left out in the open. They are supposed to make sure that it is a good living situation for the child and that the child isn't being harmed. But from what information I gathered, I don't believe CPS did any of those things in Dwight's case. CPS is different state to state, but in California, CPS can show up at a home at any time, but they aren't allowed to enter the home without permission from the parent or guardian, unless they have a court order or believe a child is in immediate danger. So I have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they tried to come in and check things out, and Tanisha said, no, we aren't sure. Tanisha was receiving disability payments of over $800 a month because she had multiple sclerosis, and she also got food stamps, and that is what she and Dwight lived on every month. On April the 6th of 2011, Tanisha again failed a drug test. 2 days later, she called a CPS social worker and left a message saying that she was relocating to Wichita. Now, the last credible sighting of baby Dwight was that same month, April of 2011, when he was 11 months old. Dwight's maternal grandma, Barbara, says the last time she saw Dwight was in early April. Tanisha had asked her to pick Dwight up at the apartment, and she did. After 2 weeks, though, Tanisha abruptly called her mother and asked for her to bring Dwight back. Barbara says she heard Dwight's voice one last time on Mother's Day, May 8th of 2011. Tanisha had called to wish her a happy Mother's Day, and she could hear Dwight's voice in the background as Tanisha tried to get him to say Barbara. Sometime after this, CPS did visit with Tanisha, and they didn't see Dwight, so they told her, hey, we need to lay eyes on him, you need to show him to us, but she didn't. For Dwight's first birthday, which was on May 19th of 2011, Grandma Barbara planned a party for him in her home. But neither Tanisha or Dwight showed up. When Tanisha called her mother 11 days later on May 30th to wish her a happy birthday, Barbara couldn't hear Dwight in the background like before. I am curious as to what excuse Tanisha gave as to why they didn't attend the party, if there was an excuse given. It was Dwight's first birthday. That's such a big deal for most parents. Did Tanisha have a separate party for him and not invite her mother? Did they have just a quiet night at home, celebrating with a little cake all his own that he could smash? Or was Dwight not with his mother on his first birthday? Now, if I plan a party for someone and they are a no-show, I'm going to be calling and asking why they didn't come. I couldn't find any information on why they didn't show up, what reason Tanisha gave, or if Barbara even asked her why they didn't show up. After April, no one saw baby Dwight anymore in the company of his mother or elsewhere, and also no one from the family reported not seeing him or filed any kind of report at all. When Barbara would ask Tanisha about Dwight, she would just say that he's okay. He's with somebody like you who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink. Another time, when Barbara asked Tanisha about Dwight, her daughter said she had no idea where he had gone. It got to the point where Tanisha refused to talk about Dwight at all, and she insisted that Dwight's older siblings never mention his name. She didn't want anyone talking about him. In my opinion, it's almost like she wanted everyone to forget that he had ever existed. The county's Child Protective Services Agency, who still hadn't seen Dwight, made 4 attempts to find Tanisha, but she eluded them each time. She wouldn't answer the door so that they could make contact. A warrant for her arrest was issued on May 26th of 2011, and on June 8th, she was finally found, and Tanisha was brought in before a juvenile court and asked to give an explanation for why her child was not there with her. Tanisha told Judge Geraldine Borak an incredible story that she and baby Dwight were traveling to Kentucky via bus but had stopped off in Reno, Nevada. Apparently, while she was there, Tanisha found out that Hassan, Dwight's father, had been arrested on a probation violation back in California, and she needed to go back to clean out the apartment that they had shared. And she said she couldn't do it with baby Dwight in tow. It would be too much trouble, I guess, for her to have to clean with a 1-year-old holding her back. So she just handed him over to these 2 Muslim women wearing burqas in a Motel 6 parking lot and left. She didn't know these women. They were complete strangers, and they, I guess, just willingly took her baby, no questions asked. She also doesn't remember if this was daytime or nighttime when this took place, and since these women were wearing burqas, they conveniently can't be identified. In addition, she later said the women weren't strangers, but were relatives of Dwight's father, Hassan. Apparently, her only display of any emotion while testifying was when they asked Tanisha if she had sold Dwight. She responded by saying, quote, "No, fuck you. Don't ever say I sold my kid to anybody because that's not something I would do." End quote. Now, Judge Borak pretty much told Tanisha that her story about the burqa-clad women was absolutely ridiculous. But the judge released her from custody anyway. She had not produced her child to prove he was okay. Her story was highly unbelievable, yet Tanisha was allowed to go free. What? The unidentified women wearing burqas at the Motel 6 wasn't the only story Tanisha spun, though. She had multiple stories. She told Hassan, Dwight's father, that she had changed Dwight's name and he could go try to find the child himself if he wanted to. In August of 2011, she told someone she was hanging out with in a bar that her child had died 6 weeks earlier in an unnamed hospital from some type of illness. Tanisha kind of disappeared for a while, and she was able to elude both the court and CPS once again. The official realization that Dwight was missing came almost a year after he was last seen, when CPS contacted the Elk Grove Police Department in March of 2012, asking them to help locate Tanisha because she had an outstanding warrant from 2011 for failing to produce her son. Several days later, officers arrested Tanisha at her mother's home on suspicion of violating probation and being under the influence of a narcotic, and that's when they learned for the first time that Dwight was actually missing, like missing. Elk Grove police notified the sheriff's department, who then issued a public alert for a missing child. A little late, I might add. According to detectives, there were even more accounts of what happened to Dwight, as claimed by Tanisha. She retold the story of the 2 Muslim women in the hotel parking lot. She also said that 2 men dressed in black took Dwight. Tanisha also told detectives that she had no way of getting a hold of the people she handed Dwight over to, and that she had kept limited contact with them to protect herself. She also said that 2 women would call occasionally to let her know how Dwight was doing, but that they stopped calling her in December and she never heard from them again. She also said that she had given Dwight to relatives, but refused to reveal which relatives. 11 months going by before Dwight was reported missing, of course, made this exponentially harder to investigate. Police weren't even sure where to look. They began contacting family members, friends, and neighbors, but none of them had Dwight, they hadn't seen him, and none of them knew where he was. Conversations with confidential sources weren't of any help either. Authorities viewed hours of surveillance tapes from a South Sacramento liquor store. I'm not sure why the liquor store maybe is located close to where Dwight was last seen. Maybe it was a business Tanisha frequented. And they used cadaver dogs to search Tanisha's Florin Road neighborhood where she had last lived with Dwight. But they found nothing. No sign of Dwight, not a stitch of his clothing, no clues, and no body. Volunteers from the community hung missing flyers up in hopes someone would recognize Dwight and come forward with information. Sacramento bounty hunter Leonard Padilla, yes, the same Leonard Padilla that bonded Casey Anthony out of jail trying to get answers about Kaylee, in case his name sounds familiar. Well, Leonard came out and offered a $3,000 reward for information that would lead authorities to finding Dwight. He received some calls, but says everyone just kept saying the same thing, that they hadn't seen Dwight in about a year. No one had any helpful leads. Meanwhile, Tanisha sat in jail for 3 years on charges of probation violation from 2008, which was a felony case involving the illegal purchase of 500 rounds of ammunition. Among her other violations were drug use, skipping juvenile court appearances, and failing to notify authorities of changes of address. She stayed in custody, completely uncooperating with police when it came to her missing child, never giving any real information as to what happened to her son, and she repeatedly refused to appear in dependency court to answer questions about Dwight. Hassan, baby Dwight's father, agreed to show up for one of the dependency court hearings and told the judge he had no clue where his son was, so he wasn't of any help. The Sacramento Bee, which is a daily newspaper there, interviewed Hassan, and he told them he didn't expect Tanisha to ever cooperate. He said, quote, "It's going to be like this until they find him, and they can't do nothing about it. They can't make her talk, end quote. As far as cell phone location pings or records of who Tanisha was in contact with during the time frame in which Dwight disappeared, I have not seen a single thing on that. I'm not sure if Tanisha even had a cell phone or whether police checked records if she did. Phone records would have been extremely helpful to pinpoint all the places Tanisha had been and also could have shown whether or not she was really contacted by someone letting her know her son was okay like she claimed they did. I couldn't find that information. If any of you have, please shoot a link to my email because I would love to see it. On March 6th of 2015, nearly 4 years after Dwight was last seen, Tanisha finally faced sentencing on charges of child endangerment and lying under oath. She had pled no contest to both, of course. The only time Tanisha spoke up during her sentencing was when she corrected the judge's pronunciation of her name.
His mother, Tanisha Edwards, who pled no contest last month to charges of child endangerment and lying under oath, did speak up at her sentencing hearing, but only when the judge mispronounced her name.
Tanisha.
She had nothing else to say. Unfortunately, they didn't have any evidence or proof to charge her with anything more concerning Dwight, so she only had the endangerment and lying charges. She was sentenced to the maximum, which was 11 years in prison, which would have had her getting out in 2026, but it's 2022, and I think she's already out. I don't know that for sure, but I have reason to believe that she is. How do you get rid of or lose your baby with no consequences? And no, spending 11 more years in jail is not consequence enough, in my opinion. How can you stay silent knowing what happened to your child or where he is? A child you carried for 9 months, gave birth to and cared for, to suddenly not have them with you anymore and just not seem to care or be willing to talk, to not see that you were hurting his grandmother, your own mother that loves him, and your other children who have lost their brother and don't know why. It seems pretty heartless. There are so many questions when it comes to what could have happened to baby Dwight. Was he really given away to someone else? Was there any truth to the story she gave about giving him to 2 strangers at the Motel 6? My opinion on that story, if you were coming back to California to clean out your apartment and thought your baby would be in the way while you were doing so, why not bring your baby back to California with you and let your mom, your child's grandma, watch him for you, or give Dwight to grandma to raise? I believe she would have happily taken him. She had come and gotten him before. She's raising the other 2 kids. You know she'll take Dwight. You know she'll take good care of him. Why would you instead give him to complete strangers that you have never met? You don't know what kind of people they are. What if they're psychos? What kind of people just take a baby handed to them and don't notify police? Her story doesn't make any sense. If someone I don't know comes up and hands me a baby in a parking lot and walks away, I'm gonna ask questions. Of course I will take your baby right now if you can't care for them or don't want them. But I'm not leaving that parking lot. I'm going to sit in my car with that baby until police arrive. You can't legally just take someone's baby home and secretly raise it when police are out there looking for the child. Now, I did see where in March of 2012, police released that they were trying to identify a woman in Reno named Antoinette. Investigators said they had reason to believe that Dwight may have been taken to Reno in April of 2011 when Tanisha made that bus trip and may be with this woman. They only had her first name, Antoinette, and didn't seem to know anything else about her, or if they did, they didn't say. They also didn't divulge where this information come from, so it does make me wonder if this was another one of Tanisha's tales, if they received a tip elsewhere, or had some kind of credible lead making them believe Dwight really was handed over to someone. One theory that Tanisha's mother has stated she believes is that her daughter was out partying, and while she was in a drug-induced state, someone took baby Dwight. Okay, I can see this happening. Someone noticing that a mother was not in her right mind or not paying attention and saw an opportunity to grab up a toddler that didn't belong to them. But if this were the case, why wouldn't Tanisha say this is what happened? Others theorize that maybe Dwight wandered off on his own while his mom was high and something happened then. When she sobered up, wouldn't she realize her baby was gone and report it though? Another theory is that Dwight is deceased. Perhaps there was an accident and he was killed and his death was covered up. However, there is no evidence of this either, and Barbara, Tanisha's mom, doesn't believe Tanisha would have ever harmed Dwight. I'm really hoping Tanisha did give him to someone to raise, like she told her mom she did at one point. Someone who could give him the love and care he deserved that Tanisha realized that she couldn't provide. I applaud moms and dads who see their faults and can admit when they are unfit to parent a child or multiple children and give them to someone who can because they want better for their kid. That's got to be an extremely hard thing to do. But you do it in the right way. You don't just hand your baby off to a stranger and not tell anyone where the child is. We all already know that the system is extremely flawed, but how and why did CPS go so long before notifying anyone that this sweet baby was missing? The caseworker had not laid eyes on Dwight in a year. Social workers are mandated reporters, and they were supposed to be checking up on Dwight's well-being, making sure he was being taken care of. As soon as it was noticed Tanisha didn't have him and she couldn't explain his absence, he should have been reported missing and an alert should have been put out. Yes, they did summon her to dependency court, but she wasn't showing up. They put out a warrant for her arrest, but it took them forever to find her. I honestly have no clue why no one in the family reported Dwight missing. They were still seeing Tanisha, and they noticed her baby wasn't with her. Maybe they trusted and believed her when she said he was with someone else. I would probably believe my family member too, honestly, but I would be asking a whole lot of questions. Dwight has been described by his grandmother as being a happy baby who loved Cheerios and hamburger meat, and he liked playing with the rolls of toilet paper. He was starting to be very mobile, and instead of crawling on his knees, he would crawl with his hands and his feet. At 11 months old, Dwight weighed 26 pounds and was 2 feet 6 inches tall. He has black hair and brown eyes. Today, he would now be 11 years old, almost 12 at the time of this recording. There aren't very many pictures of Dwight, unfortunately, and the only age progression photo so far is what they believe he would have looked like at age 4. I've said this in other videos where the child goes missing when they are still an infant or a toddler, but babies change so much when they are little, and Dwight likely doesn't look much like his baby pictures anymore. He could be with another family and have absolutely no idea whatsoever that he is a missing child. The people he's with may not even know. I hope that's the case and he has been well taken care of and is living his very best life. But I also hope that someday he will find out the truth of who he is and can have some sort of relationship with his biological family that has been missing him for 11 long years. And if Dwight has sadly passed away, justice needs to be served. If you have any information on Dwight's disappearance, please contact the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department at 916-874-5115. The investigation into Dwight's missing case remains open. There is no evidence to charge Tanisha or anyone else with murder at this time. This story isn't well known, unfortunately, and if it had gotten more attention in the beginning, and he had been reported sooner, obviously, I feel like Dwight could have been found, or at least it would be known what happened to him. Please share Dwight's flyer and share this video if you think it will help. This little boy deserves just as much exposure as so many other cases that have gotten national attention. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think about this case down in the comments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like so it can be bumped up and more people will hear Dwight's story. And also check out my entire missing playlist, as each case I cover is super important. I love and appreciate you all so very much, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.